In today's class also we are going to cover a very important part. We are going to discuss about the Mauryan administration, and questions come for a long question actually from this area as well. So now when we are discussing about the administration of the Mauryas, first we will talk about the pan-Indian character of the Mauryan administration. What we mean by this pan-Indian character of the Mauryan administration is that, like I had mentioned in the first class, this was the first empire which was very very vast, almost all India in span. Earlier, the kingdoms which were there, they were very regional, they were very localized. But this, as you can see from the map, it covered northern, northeastern, western, even considerable part of the south. All of those areas were under the control of the Mauryas. And I have taught you many instances which are mentioned in the first paragraph here. You have studied that Chandragupta Maurya, he defeated Seleucus Nicator, and he got Kabul, Kandahar, Herat and Balochistan, which were a part of his empire. So that shows that the empire was extended in the northwest. You have studied that Ashoka was also a Kumar or a prince in the Takshila area. That means till Ashoka's reign, these areas were still under control. Similarly, we have studied that Bindusar was responsible for consolidating the kingdom towards the south, and saying that Chandragupta Maurya himself had died in Shravan Belagola, which is in Karnataka. This shows that even till south, they had a lot of influence, they had a lot of hold in the entire country. So this pan-Indian character of the Mauryas, it was very unique one for Indian history, and it had several advantages. And these advantages, since there are 4 points, they can come for a 4-mark question. So the first importance is that it led to the end of small kingdoms which were there before the Mauryan Empire. So before the Mauryan Empire, you remember there were many Janpadas, there were many Mahajanpadas, which with their capitals, Magad, Takshila, Kashi, many such of them were there. But this Mauryan Empire, because it contained the entire area under its extent, this led to the fact that it led to end of all small states in the country. Secondly, actually first we will do the third point because it is just a continuation. Since all the small states were removed and the entire country became under one kingdom, under one empire, there was considerable unity which helped in removing any kind of foreign aggression. That means any one attacking or invading the country from outside, that could be avoided easily by the Mauryas because they were united. There was an end of smaller states. The third point, because the entire country was under their extent, they could easily carry trade relationship with the outside world. They had a lot of ports like in Gujarat or in the Bengal area, so it helped in establishing trade link with foreign countries. And the last one, like we have already studied, after the Kalinga War, Ashoka did not focus on expansion or on political victory anymore. He started focusing his attention towards the welfare of his subjects, and that brought about all round development and prosperity in his kingdom. So you will mention what are the advantages of pan-Indian character. Firstly, it marks the end of small states. Secondly, because it marks the end of small state, there is unity and foreign aggressions can be avoided. Thirdly, it helps in establishing foreign trade with external trade with foreign countries. And lastly, after the Kalinga War, since Ashoka started focusing on the welfare of the subjects, there was an all-round economic prosperity. So this becomes one important question. Now moving on, we will first discuss the administration. What happened in this administration? So Chandragupta Maurya, under the guidance of Chanakya, as we have already mentioned, he had framed the basic layout of the administration of the Mauryas, and this has been mentioned in two important books. Both the books you have already studied about. Arthashastra by Chanakya also mentions the administration of the Mauryas, as well as Megasthenes Indica, that also gives a very clear account of the administration. So both these books, they give a very detailed information as to what was happening in administration under the Mauryas. But before we discuss about the Mauryan administration in general, first we are talking what were the changes that Ashoka made after he came to power. So as mentioned in your book, there are 3-4 changes that Ashoka introduced. Firstly, if you remember, the most important conquest of Ashoka himself itself was the Kalinga War. So naturally, once he included Kalinga in his territory, he added the 5th province. Before this, under Chandragupta Maurya, there were only 4 provinces which we will study about. The 5th province of Kalinga was added by Ashoka, and he made Toshali the capital of this province. The second point, before this, before Ashoka, the Mauryan Empire was a centralized monarchy. Centralized monarchy means one king taking care of everything. He is responsible for all the decisions and everything. And centralized, that means he controls the center, and that center only dictates over provinces, districts, villages, and other things. But under Ashoka, this centralized monarchy became a paternal despotism. Despotism means absolute power. So it is a form of monarchy only, but it became paternalistic in nature because, like I said, Ashoka, he started showing himself as the father of his subjects. He considered his subjects to be his children. If you remember, Ashoka left war after the Kalinga war. So how did he manage such a big empire is also a question. He could manage because he adopted the role of the father of the subjects, and it was fed in the mind of the subjects. Because he used to do so much for their welfare, they started treating him as his father, and revolting against him was like revolting against a father. So that was, like, you can say, he started doing through instead of force, he started using love or paternal aspect for ruling. So now the Mauryan Empire was not a central monarchy, but it was a paternal despotism because Ashoka considered his subjects to be his children. The third point mentions that Ashoka, he simplified all the strict administrative measures or the crop cultivation measures which were there in the Mauryan Empire. If you remember, he even involved the prisoners of war. So there was a mass production, there was surplus production. So that simplified the process, and more economic prosperity could be brought about. And fourth one, in addition to the other officers which were there in the Mauryan Empire, Ashoka also appointed Dhamma Mahamatras or Mahamatras, which were governors. These governors worked at the central as well as provincial level with the Kumars to help in the administration and to look after the welfare of his subjects. And lastly, these were basically the four measures that were adopted by him that were quite different from what was happening before. But the basic structure of administration under Ashoka also was very similar to that under Chandragupta Maurya. So Mauryan administration under Chandragupta Maurya, it had two important divisions. First was the central administration and the other was provincial administration, and only these two we will study in today's class. So basically, the entire administrative process can be divided into civil administration and military administration, and civil administration is further divided into central administration and provincial administration. So first, under the civil administration, we are discussing central administration. So the Mauryan government, it was very centralized, it was very much connected to the king, and the king was the supreme authority. He assumed the throne, he was the supreme judge. So entire justice, entire authority, it lied with the king. This has also been mentioned by Megasthenes in his book, that the king was the commander-in-chief of the army, he was the supreme judge, and he was the supreme authority of the entire empire. And his power was hereditary, that means his son would become the next king. As you know, Chandragupta Maurya's son Bindusar and then Ashoka, that is how the hereditary empire worked. Now, like I already mentioned, under Ashoka, he introduced an officer Mahamatra to look after the welfare of the subjects. But under Chandragupta Maurya, this structure which was followed was that the king, he was assisted, he was helped by a group of ministers, and these group of ministers were called Mantri Parishad. Please understand this is a 3-mark question. Discuss the central administration under the Mauryas. So at the central level, the king was helped by a council of ministers who were called the Mantri Parishad, and this Mantri Parishad was headed by the prime minister. So basically you can compare it to the current system where we have a president. The president is helped by a council of ministers, and this council of ministers headed by a prime minister. So similar structure you can see that during this time also the king is assisted by a Mantri Parishad, and the Mantri Parishad is headed by the prime minister. Now in this Mantri Parishad also there were many officers, and each of them had a separate job. Some of these officers are similar to the ones you have studied in Vedic period, so you are aware of their functions. So you know that Pujari is the chief priest who will look after the religious affairs of the state. Similarly, Senapati will advise the king regarding war and peace, when to go on a war, how to conclude peace. These will be advised by the Senapati. Now, related to the head treasurer, he was called Sani Dhata. Treasurer is a person who keeps account of money in the office work, how to distribute salaries, these type of thing. And the head person under the Mauryan in the central administration, he was called Sani Dhata in the Mauryan period. And the fourth officer mentioned is called Samharta. Samharta basically was the taxation expert. So from which area is more fertile, how much tax will they pay, which area is more prone to famines and floods, so lesser taxes they will pay, what type of taxation, different taxation should be taken, agricultural, cattle, toll tax, whatever. So all of these kind of things, they were advised and they were maintained by the Samharta, who was the taxation expert. And in addition, Kautilya mentioned that there were 27 superintendents of different departments. So they were the in charge, like somebody was the accountant general looking after the accounts and finance of the empire. Somebody was in charge of agriculture. Somebody looked after the mines that were found from where the minerals were taken. Somebody looked after the ports from where the trade was concluded. Someone was the controller of trade and commerce. Some people saw the weights and measures if the goods they were being sent honestly or not. So there were many different officers in addition to these people. So for 3 marks you are writing about the central administration, you will write the first point, that the king was the supreme authority, the chief judge and his power was hereditary. Point 2, the king was helped by a council of ministers called the Mantri Parishad, who was assisted by the prime minister. Point 3, many officers of the council of ministers, some of the officers were the chief pujari or called Purohit, Senapati, who advised the king on war and peace, Samharta, who was the taxation expert, and Sanidhata, who was the head treasurer. Last point, in addition, there were other officers like accountant general in charge of mines, superintendent of ports, control of commerce, agriculture, etc. So all of these, that will become the central administration of the Mauryan government. Which brings us to the last part, which is the provincial administration. So like today also, you have the centers which are divided into states or provinces. The states are divided into districts, and then they are further divided into villages. So same type of structure is being followed. The entire administration, the central administration, was divided into 4 provinces under Chandragupta Maurya, and Ashoka, he introduced the 5th province of Kalinga. So as you can see in this picture, so at the time of Chandragupta Maurya, there were 4 provinces. This was the northern province with the capital. You can see it's mentioned in your book very clearly in that orange box. The first, when we are talking about the northwestern province, this entire province was called Gandhara, and the capital of Gandhara was Takshila, as it's circled here. Moving on to this side, Magad, which was the main capital where they used to stay, its capital was Patliputra. The third one, the central province, that was Avanti, the eastern province, central eastern, northern eastern province of Avanti, with the capital of Ujjain. The southern province had its capital at Swarnagiri. So during Chandragupta Maurya, mark the question, if it asks write the 4 provinces under Chandragupta Maurya, then you will talk about Gandhara with Takshila as capital, Magad with Patliputra as capital, Avanti with Ujjain as capital, and southern province with Swarnagiri as capital. If I ask you which was the 5th province introduced by Ashoka, you will say Kalinga with the capital Toshali was introduced by Ashoka. Now when we talk about this is a very important 2-mark question, 4 provinces with their capital. Now regarding the administration of these provinces, like I have been mentioning again and again, these provinces, they were under the control of Kumar or Aryaputra, and these Kumar were basically the prince, the ruling king, whoever his sons were, those princes, they were called